All right, thank you and welcome everybody to this webinar today that is going to be going over the Cablecast Public Site. Just some quick housekeeping stuff. In your control panel for the GoToWebinar, there is a section in there for questions. So if you do have any questions about anything that we cover in the webinar today, feel free to add them in there. We will have a kind of a Q&A session at the end after we go through the presentation, and that will be assisted by our marketing person, Michelle, who's also on the webinar today as well with us. So if you do have questions, just put them in there and we will be able to try to get to all of those at the end. Just also as a kind of a heads up, we are going to be going over the public site for Cablecast 6 and newer. So the look of the Cablecast public site that you are seeing right now for Tidy TV is one that was released for Cablecast 6. If you are on previous versions, so 6.0 or later, your public site's going to look a lot different than this. When we did release Cablecast 6 with the whole redesign of the software and everything, we also took the time to redesign the public site and make some drastic improvements on that. In addition to that, we also have the version that we're going to be looking at is going to be on Carousel, on Cablecast 6.2, which has some new features with improvements to the public site as well. So some of the features I will explain about those in a little bit or as we go through. And if you are interested in some of these new features and wanting to integrate them into your public site and you are not currently on Cablecast 6.2, be sure to check to see if you have look to see if you have current software assurance, and then you can reach out to support about getting an update for Cablecast 6 so you can have some of these nice new features with that. So with that being said, we'll kind of dive in and take a look at the public site. So what exactly is the public site? So the public site is what you're seeing right now for Tidy TV, which is kind of our demo system that kind of shows some of the capabilities of what Cablecast can offer. The public site is an integrated website within your software that's already in there, that is hosted on your machines, that will integrate all of your Cablecast features. So your schedule, your shows information, VOD files, if you have a VOD server, as well as your live stream and being able to watch that. So with this, it's really nice integrated website that's going to be really nice and handy for you guys. Kind of the biggest selling point with this is for some of those smaller facilities that are out there that don't have the resources or the staff members to be able to have a web developer or being able to make custom things like that, that you have a nice, really nice polished website that you can use, and you can kind of direct your customer or your viewers to this location to be able to get things like your schedule, watch your video on demand or your live stream and things like that. So as you can see, kind of just with our general layout, we kind of have a nice little slideshow that's going on at the top here of just recent shows that we may have that you can do this. We have our schedule for our channel that's listed over here on our right. We have some other search fields down here, and we'll talk about those as well in a little bit. And we can also watch our live stream by clicking on our watch button at the top, which will take us to our live stream that we'll be able to watch and preview on there. We can look at our entire schedule by clicking on that, and it will give us our full day's worth of programming. We can also navigate to specific days, so we can look at tomorrow and so on and so forth. And as you can see, next to some of these, we have these little green triangles. Those green triangles are indicating that these are VOD enabled files. So if we wanted to watch our Watch Out for Potholes, we could click on that and we'll be able to actually view our video on demand file of that right there within our system. So now let's talk. So we kind of know what it is. what our public site can do and kind of gives you that information and everything. But how do we get to it? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Cablecast. And it's really easy to access your public site and the settings for that through the user interface. So here in Cablecast, we can go over to the left and go over to our settings from our menu bar. And we're going to choose System Settings. Next thing that we're going to choose is we're going to go to our channels. And then we're going to select the channel that we want to make edits to the public site on. So in this case, we only have the one channel configured for this system. So we're going to click on Tidy TV. Now, as a side note with that, because we're only configured with one channel, if you guys have multiple channels with your system, so if you do have a public, an educational, and a government access, each one of those channels is going to have their own public site that you can use for each one independently. And here we have two options. We've got our public site, and then we have our view public site. So our public site is going to give us all of our editing abilities to customize our channel or our channel site. The view is going to give you an actual view of it, which is what we're viewing right here. So if we click on the public site, we're going to get into our editing abilities for this. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this, and it's really easy and straightforward to be able to customize this. We wanted to make it real simple so that you could be able to do this with no web design experience to make sure that you can get your message out there and have that web presence for your viewers. So there's a lot of things that we can do in here. We can change what our site name is going to be. So is that at the top, when we're calling this one Tidy TV, of course. If you're going to be your community media center, you can do that as well up here. We have the ability to add a header logo. So if your station or your channel has a logo, you can do that. Right here is going to give you information about the optimal settings for an image to be used. So using an image that is 400 by 75 pixels and PNG file format with transparent backgrounds is recommended. And this image will be scaled to fit within the available space. So you'll be able to see that we have our Tidy TV logo there. We can click on our Tidy TV and you'll be able to see it up here at the top. If we wanted to add a file or a different image, we can click on our select and you'll be able to browse your files on your computer that you're logged into the system on. So you don't necessarily need to preload anything onto this server, any images. You can upload it, an image, directly from the computer that you're logged into the system on. A new feature that we have with Carousel or with Cablecast 6.2 is a social media logo. So we do have the availability now to share content to social media sites like Twitter and Facebook through the user interface and through the public site. So wanting to have a social media logo as well, you can create your own logo and upload that. It's going to have its own dimensions and things like that. And same thing that we can search. Another new feature that we have as well is right here. So this is going to be nice for those facilities that have multiple channels, have a public, an educational, and a government access channel. Because each one of those has their own separate public site, before it wasn't easy to be able to bounce back and forth between those other channels. You would have to go back if you were linking directly from to the public site from your website. You'd have to go back to your main website, go to the other link and things like that. You wouldn't be able to just jump back and forth between the channels. Now we've integrated that into our software. So what we can do is we can add this channel index and include it on our site in index. And what that'll do is if you have that box checked on any of the other sites that are configured with your, or any of the other public sites that are configured with your system, if you have that box checked, at the bottom, you'll be able to link to any of your other channels. And you can click on that and navigate and bounce back and forth between the multiple channels that you may have configured with your system. So the navigation between those channels is going to be a lot easier and a lot more intuitive and helpful. Some of the other fields that we have are pretty self-explanatory kind of fields, giving you information. So our footer title, as you can see down at our bottom in our footer, we have about Tightrope or Tidy TV. And then we have a field for our description. You'll also see that in here we've got some extra little text and characters as well. So if you know basic HTML formatting, which is your web design language, you can add some of those in there. You'd be able to add in specific things, specific fonts, stylization as well, so you can do bold and all that with your strong commands and everything to add that into your site. So as you can see in here. So you do have the availability to, if you do have those resources and have that understanding of Cablecast, or not Cablecast, of HTML and web design a little bit, you can kind of integrate some of that stuff into your public site as well within that. We have other fields for things like your email, your phone, a blog URL, or if you had any sort of actual other website. So if you wanted to link directly to your regular website, you can add that in there. We have also the ability to add your Facebook page and your Twitter handle. I want to make a note on those as well with your Facebook page and your Twitter handle. So normally, if you wanted to link to your web or to your Facebook page, you would do the whole Facebook / and then whatever your name is. Basically in here, we already handle that all for you in the software. All you need to know is what your page is named. So in our case, it's Tightrope Media Systems in there. So it's basically the Tightrope Media System, or the Facebook.com / whatever, and then your page name. You'll just add that page name. Same thing with your Twitter handle. All you need to do is just do whatever your Twitter name is or your Twitter handle. So in our case, it's TRMS, and it's going to handle all that stuff for you so that you can link directly to those. So in that case, we can jump directly to our Tightrope Media Systems Twitter page, as well as linking directly to Facebook as well for Tightrope Media Systems. Now, the next section that we have is available in our previous versions, anything from Carousel 6 to 6.2. So anything that was 6 or 6.1, any variation or flavor of that, where we could have our galleries, which are all the images and all the different fields down here. In 6.2, we've added the ability to do multiple galleries or multiple gallery searches. So we can have multiple lists of different shows. Now, the way how these work is the way that they're going to go with these galleries are the way that you set up saved searches. So I know one question that we get a lot in support and through the trainings that I handle with Cablecast support or Cablecast training and things is you go to your public site, you have multiple channels, and it's showing stuff that might be only available for that you only schedule on your educational channel, but it's showing up in our gallery for our public channel. The way that Cablecast works for the public site is originally it's going to show the entire database, or it's going to search for the entire database that is set up with your system. So it's going to be looking for all of your different shows. So if you did a search for recent shows, as an example, it's going to show all of the recent shows that you've created. It's not going to be tied specifically to your public channel or your recent shows for your government channel or your educational channel or whatever it may be. You're going to need to modify and create some of these saved searches within Cablecast itself to be able to link them and actually show exactly what you want to show on here. So kind of looking in here, it's kind of a two-part deal. So what we can do is we can have our different shows or different galleries that are down here, and I can edit it, and I can say, you know what? I want to name this one, and it's going to show recent shows. I want to look at what save search I want to call. And so you can go and look at all of your different saved searches that are available for your system, and you can choose one of these, and that's what it will actually display in that gallery. A new feature as well in Cablecast 6.2 is you have the ability to show the maximum number of shows in that gallery. So before, let's say you did a save search and you had like 20 shows in that save search. It would show probably all of those 20 searches, or all of those 20 save or shows in that save search in that gallery. But now what we can do is we can limit how many are going to actually show up in there. So as you can see in our recent shows, we have only showing 4. But we have now this new little spot button right here that says show all. I click on that and it's going to show our recent shows, and now I can get a full list of all the different programs that are in here. So this would be really helpful and really nice for things like if you wanted to have a gallery for your city council meetings, and you could call the title your city council meetings, or your, like in here, for an example, we have Manchester town meetings. And let's say you have 20 or 30 meetings from the last couple of years. Well, instead of having 20 or 30 on your site, we're showing only 4, but then we can go and look here and we'll have our full list of all the other shows that are available. So that is new in Cablecast 6.2. But with this, we can add as many different galleries as we want to. So we can add another new one if we wanted. We can also rearrange the order of these. So if I wanted that plays on Tidy TV to be first or second after our recent shows, we can do that. And in here. The next settings that we have is our slideshow search. So the slideshow is what is showing up right here at the top, our little kind of a preview gallery. This can be navigatable by clicking on these over here, by clicking on any of your arrows, and also a new feature as well with Carousel 6 or Cable. I don't know why I keep saying Carousel, but Cablecast 6.2 is this slideshow automatically plays for you. In previous versions, this slideshow was static. If you wanted to navigate to see some of the other ones, you would have to click through manually. But now, as we look at it, it's going to manually or automatically rotate through our slideshow for us, which is really nice because it adds that extra feature and makes it look like a real website, having that slideshow moving automatically there for you. The last option, and with that too, you're just basically choosing your save searches that you created, and you'll be able to do that. Have that show up. The last area that we have is to be able to customize the coloring of our banner color, our background color, and our gradient color. So our banner color is going to be our banner right across the top up here. Our background color in here, as we can see, is kind of that grayish color, is the background in here, what's showing up around the thumbnails. And then our gradient color is going to be what's on the sides, kind of that fade in there. If you wanted to customize any of those, we can go in here and change any of it. So if I wanted to have red instead, let's say, and don't worry, Michelle, I'm going to set it back to what it originally was. We can add that in there, and if I hit save, and we can refresh this, and now our banner color is now red. So we can make some of those adjustments and change different things. If you also know your hexadecimal color code for what specific colors you want to use, you can also type those in as well in here. So the site is completely customizable to a sense of what you want it to look like, what you want it to display, and things like that, and adding that ability for people to do stuff. One of the biggest things that we are kind of proud of with our Cablecast Public Site is that it is also completely open source. So if you do have those people that know how to customize CSS for web design or websites, things like that, you can modify any of those things right within or for your site. It's not done through the public site or the user interface customization, but if you wanted to make some additional customizations and some different things in there, you can edit your CSS content of that. And I believe there is an article on our knowledge base from our website. You can navigate there under our support. There's a link for our knowledge base. And there is a link article in there that talks about customization using this CSS and things like that as well. So as you can see, we can kind of make this our own. And I know one thing that probably we're going to get a few questions about is the saved searches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to kind of create some of those saved searches. And what we'll do is we'll add another new gallery in here. So we're going to go back. We're going to go out to our main menu just so that we can get a fresh starting point. Now, let's say I want to search for certain programs. So we're going to go to our shows. We're going to go to show search. And over here on our right-hand side, we have our advanced filters for searching. So we can clean out some of these other filters and we can add a different filter that we want. And in here, we can filter by a variety of different things. So we have things like CG title we could sort by, categories, locations, producers, projects, run count, show IDs, title, total runtime, if it's VOD enabled, things like that. So if you wanted to only display your VOD files, for example, we can add our VOD. We'll sort by that and we'll make sure that we say, okay, all the stuff that has VOD files. If I hit search, it's going to populate everything that does have VOD enabled on that show record. And as you can see, we have 40 different shows. Now, if I wanted to just save this, we can hit save search. We'll name this one VOD shows. Hit OK. And now that search has been saved. We can also take a look at that search by going out to our shows menu again, hitting save search. And we can say, let's see, VOD shows right there. And it's going to populate that. So if I wanted to create a new gallery as an example, so let's go to our settings. We'll go to our system settings, channels, choose the channel that you want to edit the public site for. Go to our public site here, and let's add a new gallery. So let's remove a couple of these. So we're going to remove that one, and we're going to remove our Manchester town meetings. So we're going to create a new one. And here we're going to call our title Watch VOD. Then what we're going to choose is we're going to choose there's our save search for VOD shows. And then now we can say how many of these do we want to show up in our gallery. Let's leave it at 10 just so you can kind of see the difference in how we can customize some of these things. So I hit OK, and there it's been added in there. We'll leave it at the bottom for right now. I hit save. Go to our public site again. Let's refresh that. And as it loads, it's going to have our pink title, our borders, and there we are with our Watch VOD. And here it's going to show us the next 10. So we got 8 and then 2 there. But there was what, 30 or 40 files in there in that save search. Now I can click on our show all, and here it's displaying 40 different shows. So I can look and find everything that is VOD enabled. So you can really kind of customize and make sure that if you want to direct your viewers to specific sections or specific things on your public site. So I know a lot of people will like this as the portal into their video on demand stuff. So if they're really wanting to go and do some of those things, they can have a list already generated or have a gallery set up for your city council meetings, and then have for your planning board meeting or your high school football games and things like that, and have those featured as different galleries on your main page of your public site. In there. And with those saved searches, there's a lot of power that you can do with those. So like with that, we only did one filter. So here we can go to our show search again. We can add multiple filters. So let's say I want to add a new filter. Let's say we're going to do video on demand has VOD. We'll add another filter, and let's say for let's say event date. And we're going to say, you know what, we're going to show everything from the last 30 days. Oh, of course, we're not going to have anything in there because I don't think we've added anything new in there. But you kind of get the point. So we can add different filters, and we can add that so you can really kind of customize exactly what you want to show. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this. And basically, your possibilities are endless in making sure that your public site is showing exactly what you want with that. So let's go back out to our main menu in there. Any questions? I think we can kind of open this up now to a few questions. I know probably there's a lot of questions. I know in previous webinars, we've had people ask about the public site specifically. So there's probably quite a few in there. Let's see if we can kind of answer those or dive into some specific areas that you might be interested in.
All right, so we have some questions that I think might have gotten asked before you addressed it in your presentation, but we will just go with it. See if there's some additional details we might be able to cover. So the initial question I have here is from Bonnie asking about search options. She's saying she felt like the legacy public site had more detailed search options than the current one. So can we review how that search window works in the new public site?
So I'm guessing the actual like being able to search for specific programs from the public site. So right. With this, I believe this, if I remember correctly, the way that this search field up here acts is it's going to act and search by the CG titles of your shows. So like, for example, if we wanted to look for our interns at SCC or CTV, we can go anything that had intern in it. Oh, but then your category is Internet Archive. Okay. So it does search a couple of different things. And I believe we've made some improvements to the searching in 6.2 with that. So you'll be able to kind of see multiple things with that if you're searching by specific keywords. So like, let's say access, SCC. There we have a variety of all of those in there. Or we can go meetings. And it's going to search by that category. Anything that was assigned the meetings category is now showing up in there as well. So there have been some improvements to what we previously what we originally released with Carousels or with Cablecast 6. 6.2 we did make a lot of kind of improvements to make this a lot more user-friendly and being able to make it more comprehensive in a sense. If that answered your question, I hope it did. If there isn't, follow it up in the questions if there's something more specific that I didn't touch on.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for any follow-ups from Bonnie. The next question is, it's actually a feature request, which is a good time to bring up that if you do have a feature request, the best way to let us know is to email features@trms.com. You can always tell us here, but I promise the best way to actually have it considered by the people who make the new developments to the software is to email it to features@trms.com. They want to be hearing directly from end users, not from us relaying it to them, about what it is that you all are requesting and how you're using the software. So the feature request is the ability to change and choose the fields under the thumbnails. So I assume you mean, Tom, when you're viewing, like, say, the videos in your recent shows gallery, how the date and the length and the producer and the category show up, and you'd like to be able to customize that view. I believe that we've already had quite a few people asking for that, but again, I think the best route is to email that to features@trms.com, and I'll go ahead and put that in the chat window so everyone has that email address.
Yep. And I know specifically too, I've had a lot of people ask about that and have that as a feature request. But yeah, like Michelle was saying, email that into features@trms.com. Just in a sense with some of those features, if it's something that a lot of customers are asking about and wanting the availability to, it's going to be, in a sense, it's almost like squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. Where if only one person is saying, hey, you know what, it'd be great if I could do this with my public site, but no one else would want that feature, it's probably not as more likely that would be added. But if it's something that our developers are seeing, hey, we've got 20 emails, but I'm not asking you guys to spam that email account with one feature request or something. But as you can understand, like if we see a lot of customers saying, you know what, this would be a great feature, I would really want to utilize that, and we're seeing that very frequently, then that's going to probably be added to the roadmap a lot sooner, and they're going to look and dive into that a little bit sooner than anything else.
So,
but please don't spam us.
Yeah, one email per request per person. Say that. So the next question we have is on the About section. This is sort of a feature request too, I think, Tom, saying that you'd like it if the About section of the footer of the site didn't show up with every individual show. So you would see the About section when you're viewing this gallery view that we're seeing right now on the screen, but if you were to click on an individual video, that About section, or the footer, essentially would no longer be there. And I would say go ahead and submit that to features as well. That would definitely be a feature request, the ability to control that individually. Let's see. And then Jamie, I believe yours is also a feature request. It's asking about adding a YouTube link to the footer as well, in addition to the Facebook and Twitter links. Although this site was created with the intention that you wouldn't need to then put your videos on a third-party site, that it would all be automated from your video server, and that you would no longer need that additional step.
Yeah, if you had a VOD server configured with your system. Yeah.
Right, and so that is a nice thing, I suppose, for folks who aren't using Cablecast for video on demand to be able to turn on whatever platform you are using for video on demand. So again, Jamie, that's a feature request. So go ahead and submit that. Let's see. Ray is asking how we add images to the slideshow gallery.
So that slideshow gallery it's not like it's individual images. They're going to be the thumbnails for your shows. So it's going to be pulling up actual show records. So it's not like a slideshow of pictures of you at your parades and around your facility and things like that. It doesn't work that way. This is specifically a slideshow for the shows that you have in that saved search. If I understood your question correctly.
If you have any follow-ups on that, Ray, let us know. Then we have a couple questions about a program description. So can we, Ryan, review what was added in 6.2 as far as the program description for each individual video?
So that description field or your comments field in your show record, that a lot of people use that as a description. I believe that has not been added into like when you call up a show. That is a feature request that I know I've heard quite a few people ask about, having a description or in that show details being able to put in your comments field about saying, hey, this is this talk show with special guests Jane Doe and John Doe or whatever. Right now that's something that would be able to, you'd have to submit as a feature request in there. If you don't use our public site and you actually are like hard coding or using our Cablecast API to integrate Cablecast into your website, the API has the ability to pull more fields and stuff like that. But that's where if you have a web developer on staff or a contract person that knows how to utilize APIs and things like that. But with the public site, it's a real basic, simple one. So adding that description, I know is one that we're seeing. So.
Right, and as sort of a follow-up to the earlier question about being able to customize the other items underneath each video, such as the category and the date and all of that, James makes a good point that I believe he's correct on this, that you can customize those views if you are using the API. So if you're
Yes.
This is for more advanced users, right? If you're customizing your own view of the public site, which is something you can do, and perhaps you hire someone to do that for you to generate custom CSS for the pages, then you could leave those fields out in that case, as the software currently exists. I don't know if you had anything else to add to that, Ryan.
No.
But that's, I mean, I think we wouldn't say just dive right in and try to start doing that on your own. I mean, if you know how to do that, or you're hiring someone, say, to customize a new website for you, and you're pulling information from Cablecast into your website, then that's one way to do it currently. We have another question from Trent. He's saying the show button, or the show all button under recent shows doesn't work. Let's look at that. Are you looking at our site, Trent? Are you looking at Tidy TV? Or I don't know if that's
Yeah, because it works here like recent shows.
said he's looking at his 2 sites and it's not working. I would suggest if something's not working to contact support. And I'll put that email in the chat as well. And another resource that we have for a lot of common issues is our knowledge base, which I will also put the link to, kb.trms.com. We'll have a lot of, there might be some snags that more than one person has run into, or a known bug that we're working on fixing, or something like that. Just common questions you might be able to find and answer by searching our knowledge base. So Trent, if you have a follow-up there, let us know. Going through more questions here. What is the sort order for the items that show up in the specific galleries?
So the sort order can be customized within the save search. So here, we'll go back to our shows. We can go to our show search, and you can order by a variety of different things. You can do order by category, event date, any of the same filters. So if you wanted to do event date, or if you wanted to do by show ID or whatever it may be, that's how the sorting is going to be done. So when you create your save search, you can add that order by in there and set that to the way that you want so that it'll show up the way you actually want it on your public site.
Great. And I'll mention, sometimes we get some just general Cablecast questions on here. We do have a limited amount of time set aside for this webinar, so I do address questions that are directly related to the topic at hand for the webinar first, in which case this is on the public site. So if you have questions that are not related to the public site, if it's a support issue, like anything that's not working, you can always email that to support. The email address is in the chat window. Other inquiries, you're not quite sure where they should be directed, I put the info@TRMS email in there. So James has a question about stations with multiple channels. Where will those menu links to say that they have an education and a government channel? Say you're on their public.
Yep. So on your public site, so I believe it's right above or right below your about section will be where they're located. So like here, so in our what's new in Cablecast 6.2 video that you can view here, it goes over everything. We're not actually going to watch it, but we do show, so like here, underneath your about section, it will have browse our other channels, and then it will list all the other channels that you may have, and it will use that social media link or that social media image as like a thumbnail for that. So then you'll be able to jump from so if you're on your public sites or your public site for your public channel and you wanted to jump to your government channel or your educational channel, those will be down here underneath with a link with the title of that channel, and then you can click to it.
Right. And we have a question from Michael about how to control cross-population of programs on 2 different channels. So he wants certain programming to show up on multiple channels.
So if I'm understanding correctly, is I know it's a question that I get a lot, is they wanting to be able to control not having government stuff show up in the or in the galleries or anything like that on the public channel and vice versa, stuff like that. The biggest way, because with the public sites, is they're looking at everything. They're looking at all of your show records. They're not going to necessarily look at stuff that is specifically on one channel and display that. It's all about how you develop your saved searches to limit what is actually being shown in here. But let's say someone is on your public site and they search for the city council meeting. They'll be able to see, they'll find that if they did a search for city council meetings from your public site for your public channel or your educational channel or whatever it may be, because it's one big database for your entire system. It's all using the same system and things like that. It's not separated out that way. But if you're wanting to control and limit what is actually being seen on, like, your home, in a sense, your home page with your slideshow and your galleries, then you're going to want to make sure that you're actually customizing those saved searches specifically in the way that you want them to be.
Okay, I hope that answered your question. We have a couple of questions about the view counts, which is also a new thing that we've added in Cablecast 6.2. Can we take a look at that?
Yep, so the view count is going to be internally. So it's not, you're not going to be able to see a view count on your from your public site. So with Cablecast 6.2, we added the ability to get view counts for your VOD as well as current viewers of your live stream. So if we go to, let's just go back out to our main menu, we'll go to our internet video. And for example, our video on demand, let's look at it like our NASA launch. It's going to have a view count down here. Granted, that doesn't have a current number of viewers or with that, but that will give you that information in here. So it's just going to give you the basic information of how many times it's been viewed, how many times it's been called up, and things like that. Yes, it is very limited, and it's not going to give you all the details of where they're coming from, how long they were viewing, and stuff like that. It is a brand new feature that we've finally integrated into our software that a lot of people have been asking about. So it is still pretty brand new. But this is the first iteration of it. It's actually getting it into the software so you can at least see view counts, that sort of thing. So like with our what's new there, we have it's been viewed 6 times. But as we go forward with the way that we're rolling out our software updates now, we're going to be continually building on to that and adding some new features where we can get more information integrated into reporting and things like that. So right now, it's very simple and basic, being able to view your view counts of your current video on demand, as well as your live stream. So if we go to our live stream here, we'll have current viewers in there. So that's only going to show you what are currently viewing. You're not going to be able to get right now, you're not going to be able to get your view counts for multiple of, like, okay, during this time, how many viewers did we have? And then at this time and stuff like that. But that should be coming soon. Okay. So I just wanted to make that point because I know a lot of people will be like saying, well, it doesn't do what I want. So just wanted to let you know.
Oh, I was muted. All right, I'm back. Jenna brings up a good question. She's asking, how do I get recent shows to update as time goes by? Can you talk a little bit about the dynamic nature of saved searches?
Yep. So with your saved searches, they are going to be dynamic. They are going to follow the criteria of that search. So anytime you're adding a new feed or a new show record to that and you're wanting to update and As long as it falls into those criteria, it will be added to the list. So what you're probably going to need to do is you might need to adjust the sort order for those saved searches. So whether it's ascending or by show ID instead of by event date, whatever it may be. Like in that case, that one's defaulted to event date. You might want to have it be by show ID so that it's the most recent and have it descending, or if you uncheck it, it's going to be ascending with that. So it's going to be playing around with that to see how it's being actually ordered by in there so that you can get some of that most recent content in there being filtered and being shown up at the front.
Okay. Hope that answered your question. We had a couple questions about changing the thumbnail, customizing the thumbnail that shows up on the public site. Can you show people where that happens?
Okay. So yeah, so the thumbnail that shows up, the default is going to be just a random still image from the digital file that it's associated with. You do have the ability to add custom thumbnails. Like for example, like here we have our What's New in Cablecast 6.2 thumbnail where it's kind of got that title card, that look for it. So to be able to customize your thumbnail images is in our shows, under show search, you can call up your meeting that you want, or not your meeting, your show record that we want to. So like in here, we can go What's New in Cablecast 6.2. And as you can see, in our reel section, it's just the random image from the file. That's not changeable, unfortunately. So it's not like YouTube where you can pick between like 3 options for your thumbnail and things like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. It's just going to pick, I believe it's near the middle of it, but you'll be able to kind of see that. If you didn't like that one and you wanted to add your own, the top thumbnail image up here is where you can add your own custom image. So if you wanted to take your own still frame from your file, or if you've got like a title card, or like if your show has a specific logo or something like that, you can add that by just selecting, browsing for it, and adding that file to your show record. If there is something in here, this is what's going to be shown. If you don't add anything, it's just going to default to the one from your reel. All right.
So we have a question from Keith. I hope I'm understanding this. He's wanting to know, how do you show programming that you've designated to be CG exempt? I apologize if you're getting that background noise. If you've designated a show to be CG exempt, but you've checked that you want it to be VOD enabled, how will that appear on your site?
So you wouldn't be able to find it through your schedule. That CG exempt is not going to show up in this schedule here. So if any of these files were CG exempt, they wouldn't be in here. But if it's VOD enabled, you'll still have a link. You'll have a direct link to those that you can share to people. Otherwise, what you can do is under your actual searches and stuff like that, your saved searches, those programs will appear under those saved searches. And then you can assign those to your galleries and things like that. So if you had like a promo or something like that, that was not, or that you had as CG exempt, but you have it in your parades gallery or something like that, it would show up in there.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. We had a question on how, what are the ways to be able to display your carousel bulletin board on the public site?
So
I think
there really isn't a way to have like your carousel bulletin board as a feature within your Cablecast public site. There is a very basic public site option in Carousel that will just kind of have a small interactive web page that just shows still or thumbnails of all of your bulletins that are in there for different zones. But there isn't like a way that you could kind of sort through in your Cablecast. Being they are two separate pieces of software, they do integrate a little bit, like with some of the features and things like that. But something like being able to show your bulletin board slides and stuff like that isn't going to be integrated into the Cablecast software. What I would suggest is either submit a support ticket to our support department asking about that, or you can talk to our training, send an email to our training email. Is it training@trms.com, I believe? Is that correct?
I don't know. I've never used the training email before.
Yeah.
That might be.
But even if anything, if you email to the support and just say, I have some questions or about training of the Carousel public site, they'd point you in the right direction of either myself or Grant, who handles a lot of the Carousel stuff. So.
Okay. Getting back to this. Jamie wants to know if you can change the text color in the slideshow.
Unfortunately, that is not a customizable field through the configuration in the user interface. I believe you might be able to do that if you actually customize the CSS file, but don't quote me on that specifically. But yeah, through the user interface, like going to our system settings, channels, public site configuration, you aren't able to change text color.
And we had a similar question like that from Melissa asking about whether or not you could customize the footer title, the gallery title. You can customize your gallery titles in the Cablecast user interface, but your footer title that says about us, are we able to?
If you know HTML, you might be able to add stuff. So like if you wanted it bolded or something like that, you could maybe do specific HTML code in your title in that section for that. But I believe there is some customization in this if you were to modify the CSS file. But I think that's still a little limited with like, I'm not sure if you can do like fonts or anything change like that specifically.
I'll ask about that and see if I can get a response. Is there a way to not have the slideshow display if you don't want to have a featured slideshow gallery?
Unfortunately, there isn't.
Okay. And Melissa is wanting to know where you get the RSS feed for the daily programming schedule, and does it update automatically?
So the RSS for your schedule, you can, I believe that is in tools, plugins, and you can get an RSS schedule for whatever channel you want. So you could view the RSS there for that. And that, I believe that RSS feed is updated in real time. So as things go in there. But with the RSS feed of the schedule, that would be separate from like using the public site. The public site would have the schedule already integrated in there. This will update, show you what's playing right now, what's on the actual channel, so on and so forth, what's scheduled throughout the day. Where the RSS feed would be if you were to post it somewhere else other than like using your public site.
Tim wants to know how to get a thumbnail for the live feed box on the website. Does that mean that when you click on the live feed, you want there to be a thumbnail before you push play? Can you confirm on that?
And if that's the case, that might be something that you might need to reach out to support, and they might be able to point you in the right direction. I'm not sure. I believe what shows up is, like, if we were to go to our public, here, we'll go to our public site and we go to the watch for that. I believe it's just going to be the black.
Right.
So I don't believe that there is a thumbnail on that.
Okay. Is there a way to feature your live feed in the slideshow?
Unfortunately, there isn't. It would just be the watch button at the top of your screen would then take you in there. That would be a good feature request, though, that you can maybe asking for a more prominent way to promote your live stream from the main or the homepage or whatever of the public site.
Okay, so we are at the end of our hour, and I am not seeing any other questions that are directly related to the public site. If you have questions, again, if you have questions that are not related to the public site, I'd be happy to try to get those answered for you if you email us at info@trms.com, which is in the chat window currently. Give you all just another quick 30 seconds here to finalize your last questions if you're typing them in now. And barring none, I don't know if you have any final comments for the group, Brian?
Yeah. I would, like Michelle said, if you do have any additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out to support or our info@trms.com with questions, and we'll definitely, whoever gets those emails will point you in the right direction to get those answers that you want. In addition to that, I also kind of want to give a little quick tease and a save the date for our next webinar that we're going to be hosting on June 14th. We are going to be going over cable display bulletins in Carousel. So mark your calendar, save your date. More information about that, email blasts and all that stuff with registering for that will be coming at a later point, but at least you can kind of get those on your calendar and say that you're going to want to look at that. So that is June 14th. It'll be a webinar on cable display bulletins.
Great.
In Carousel.
And we did have one more question, and I was actually going to bring this up, so thanks, Trent. We are recording today's webinar, so you will be receiving a link to the recording in the follow-up email after we conclude. Actually, it will likely go out tomorrow, the email, to both folks who are here today and folks who signed up and didn't attend. So if someone else at your station signed up and they weren't able to attend live, you can let them know that they will be receiving a link to the recording as well. Or also folks at your station that didn't register, perhaps, you can also share that recording with them. So it will be available later for you to refer to and watch again. So without further ado, we will, and I have one more question folks asking how to get information on the next webinar. Because you are all on this webinar, I will make sure that you all get information about the next upcoming one because I have your email addresses. And Tim is asking if we will be at InfoComm. Yes, we will be. We will have that information up on our website shortly, and it is booth 831 in Orlando. So if you're going to be at InfoComm, we'd love for you to come by and see us there. Thanks, everybody.